So as we all know, Jason Tatum went down with the ruptured Achilles in the Celtics Knicks series, and prayers out to him. He balled out or whatever. He picked it up towards the end of the series, but I kind of wanted to tackle two topics with this video. One, how does Boston's chances fare against the Knicks without Tatum? They forced a game 6 after game 5 of just showing that championship spirit. And then the second part I wanted to talk about is, I guess, what intricacies or what we might see from the Celtics after Tatum's recovering from his injury. So let's get into first part. The Celtics in game 5, they balled out. Like, they showed that championship spirit. There was kind of a feeling that they would probably win just for the sake of their star player, their main guy, going down with injury in such a harsh way. And, they made it happen. Jaylen Brown, stepped up, scored the ball pretty well. I think he had like 26. Derek White, there's always this thing I had against Derek White. They made him a 90 overall in 2K. And, I always question, like, bro, why is Derek White a 90 overall? He's not an all-star. He's near all-star caliber. But, if you're going to drop 32 points and have 7 out of 13 threes made, go ahead and be a 90 overall. Like, you really balled out that game. And can we not talk about, like, Luke Cornett just having, like, 8 blocks, looking like prime Bill Russell and just locking Cat up, making him look weak? Like, I don't know, man. Like, it was just, even though I'm not really rooting for the Celtics, it was kind of like good to see that effort from them. Backs behind the wall, 3-1. You're possibly facing elimination, and you just go out and get a win like that and take it back to Madison Square Garden for a game 6. Obviously in game 5 the Knicks didn't really play to the best of their ability. Brunson had an okay game. Cat, he's just been meh all series long. He hasn't really dominated. I would have thought he would have dominated, but Luke Cornett said otherwise. But going back to game 6, Madison Square Garden, what can we see? Well, first of all, I think hopefully maybe Karl Anthony Towns will finally have a good game. I think Boston's figured out their 3-point bug, so I don't expect them to shoot horrible. I think they finally figured out that they can hit threes. I think we're going to see a lot of Jaylen Brown ISO buckets, getting to that elbow on the right or on the left, and just getting buckets there. Peyton Pritchard, I think he's going to have a pretty good, decent game off the bench or whatever. On the Knicks end, I think Brunson's just gonna, he's just in that mode to just like go and get it. I think he's gonna have a pretty high scoring game. OG and Macau. I don't think OG was that good in game 5, if I'm not mistaken. And Macau, I think he had an alright game. But I think they're just gonna hit shots or whatever. Mitchell Robinson's just gonna come off the bench and grab his rebounds. Mitchell Robinson actually hit his free throws in game 5. So I don't know, maybe he'll come out with another game like that. But do I see Boston forcing a game 7? I will say yes, I can see Boston forcing a game 7. I think now that Tatum's out, I think it kind of just like humanized them. Like, they're not this big tyranny force that people have to run through now. They're back to like where they were a couple years ago, where they're the people trying to elevate and get to that championship ceiling. And it kind of brought them back down. So now they're fighting with that hunger. And, I think that could take a team a long way. Having that mentality and going, being looked at as underdogs and just going into, an away building and just getting a win, forcing a game 7. So I definitely do think Boston can force a game 7. And, we'll see tomorrow. The second part I want to get into this video, I want to talk about Jaylen Brown specifically. For many years now, I always thought of Jaylen Brown, like, if you just give him his own team, I think he's like a 30-point per game scorer, like, legitimately. And the thing that really reinforced that belief Back in the 22-23 season, Jaylen Brown averaged 27 a game, while Tatum was averaging 30 a game. And just looking at that season overall, he took 20 shots, Tatum took 21 shots a game. It just really made me think, like, if you gave this dude the ball in his hands, he can get buckets. And he's a pretty efficient guy overall. Like, I know he has his issues with the turnovers or whatever, not really being favorable with his left hand. But, Jaylen Brown, he's such a good player to the point where his imperfections, he's still able to score 27 a game. And, that's the crazy part I think people don't realize about Jaylen Brown is that despite not being good with the left, he'll still give you a 20 ball. So definitely next season, I think we'll see, like, a different Jaylen Brown. Like, I was always one of those guys where I believe he could be a first option of a team. And, with Tatum out, unfortunately, I think he's going to be forced into that role. And I won't be surprised if he just flourishes in it. Like, Boston, they're still a pretty good team without Tatum. Like, they're easily a playoff team. But, I'm low-key intrigued to see, a Jaylen Brown-led team because I've always had this thought in my head that he's just a go-to guy. Just based off that 22-23 season where he was averaging 27 a game while Tatum was averaging 30. But let me know your guys' thoughts on the series overall, or my take about Jaylen Brown. Just like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.